What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing to the channel. And while you're at it, go ahead and smash that like button. I really would appreciate that. Well, guys, we've got several things I want to cover with you guys today. Leaked intel shows Russia jams U.S. GPS-guided weapons given to the Ukraine. This is the beginning of the end of Putin in the Ukraine. The Supreme Court just ruled that $6 billion in student loan forgiveness for 200,000 borrowers can finally move forward. Hunter Biden is actually looking like a giant embarrassment at this point. Can't wait to share the details with you guys on that one. The S&P 500 is expected to tank 27% at least. A recession will hit and more financial disasters will happen. This according to an elite investor by the name of Jeremy Grantham, and why a housing market crash may be closer than you think. Now, we have a lot to get into today, guys. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. So Russian forces can jam some of the GPS-guided weapons that the United States has given to the Ukraine, including Joint Direct Attack Munitions, or JDAMs, according to Business Insider. It goes on to say that the report shows leaked online, it found that 4 of 9 extended range JDAMs used by the Ukrainian forces have missed hitting Russian targets, possibly due to jamming, and it's recommended that the Russian jammers be taken out. The information about Russia's ability to jam JDAMs and other precision-guided weapons was included in a massive data leak that the Justice Department is currently investigating. Yeah, so the U.S. Supreme Court finally just ruled that $6 billion in student loan forgiveness for over 200,000 borrowers can finally move forward. It says here that the Supreme Court has approved the ruling. The relief is a part of a settlement from a lawsuit filed back in 2019 by borrowers who said that they were defrauded. Now, on Thursday, the nation's highest court ruled that $6 billion in student loan debt relief will be approved for 200,000 borrowers. And this is a big step forward. This is in result to a settlement from a years-long lawsuit known as the Sweet versus Cardona. Now, this particular lawsuit is a little bit different than what you might be thinking. That this is a little different from the push from President Biden's student loan forgiveness. This is slightly separate. This lawsuit was filed back in 2019 under former President Donald Trump on behalf of borrowers with stalled borrower defense claims, or claims that borrowers can file if they believe that they were defrauded by the school that they attended. Now, if approved, their debt will be wiped out. So I repeat, if approved, their debt will be wiped out. Now, President Joe Biden's education department agreed to a settlement last summer, and federal judge signed off on the relief in November. So ironically enough, this is moving forward and actually getting traction, but it appears as though this was actually initiated by former President Donald Trump. Now, in spite of what's going on with New York City and state prosecutor Alan Bragg out of New York, and all of the drama that President or former President Trump is dealing with, this is actually more positive publicity for former President Donald Trump, who's dealing with lots of litigation, not to mention a big issue going on in Florida. Now, Kamala Harris, is she useless? Well, according to this report, evidently she is. Now, Kamala Harris might be president. President Joe Biden has yet to announce that he is running for re-election officially, though most assume that he is running again. Now, if Biden were to run again and win the election in 2024, by the time that he's sworn in, he would be 82 years old. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that's getting pretty up there, for a president. And I personally feel like he's losing his acuteness in terms of cognitive abilities. So starting a 4-year term at 82 years old is a little bit suspect for a president who's kind of, showing some wear and tear already. As of 2020, the average male life expectancy here in the United States was 77 years old. Now, Biden would be 5 years past that. So just imagine, if your life expectancy is, say, 77 years old as a male in the United States, and you're starting your presidential term at 82, the odds are already stacked against you. And where would we be if President Joe Biden were to be reelected and die midway during his term? Assuming that his running mate is Kamala Harris and she's reelected, would you guys be okay with Kamala Harris being president of the United States in the event that Biden were to maybe not make it through his full term? Hit me up in the comments down below on that one. Gives you some food for thought. Now, here it says Kamala Harris is an uninspiring figure. She rose to power in the most dubious ways by beginning her time in California politics, having an affair with the politically connected Willie Brown. Once in power, Harris spent her time maneuvering herself into national political office, eventually landing a Senate seat representing California. While in the United States Senate, Harris failed to distinguish herself other than falsely accusing former President Donald Trump's Supreme Court nominee, Brett Kavanaugh, of rape. Now, Kamala Harris could not even properly assassinate the character of an innocent Republican journalist whose only crime was being an exceptional person on the job. While she ran for president, Harris was billed as the female Barack Obama who would usher in a new rainbow, coalition-driven future for America. So I would love to hear from you guys. What do you think about Kamala Harris? And more importantly, how do you feel about Kamala Harris being president in the event that President Biden is reelected but doesn't necessarily make it through and finish out his full term? I'd love to hear from you guys on that one. It says here Hunter Biden is a giant embarrassment. Hunter Biden has no shame. President Biden has made another spectacle of himself in the midst of world-shattering events elsewhere. The 46th president sojourned to Ireland, the ancestral lands of the Biden family, where there Biden made waves by vowing to unite the political parties of Northern Ireland. It goes on to say that the very idea of such a policy being embraced by the American president enraged the British, which has controlled the Northern Ireland enclave for hundreds of years. In fact, British control of this region has been the source of centuries of warfare and turmoil between Catholic Ireland and Protestant Britain. Now, prepare your investments, prepare your retirement accounts, because an elite investor by the name of Jeremy Grantham, he is expecting that the S&P 500 will tank at least 27%, and that a recession will hit, and that more financial disasters are likely to happen. Now, these are some pretty significant claims that pretty much everyone will be affected by. Whether you have a 401k, an IRA, a taxable brokerage account, whether you trade with Vanguard, Charles Schwab, Fidelity, E-Trade, Webull, Robinhood, you will be affected by a 27% decline in the S&P 500. Pretty much no one would escape that being unscathed if you are connected to the stock market at all. And even if you don't have any investments in the financial arena, if you work for a company that is publicly traded, you will likely feel the impact of this in terms of job security. Now, it says here that the S&P 500 will dive at least 27% to around 3,000 points and might only bottom out next year. And the benchmark stock index could plummet by more than 50% to around 2,000 points in a worst case scenario, he added. Now, Grantham has been sounding the alarm on a massive bubble in asset prices and predicting that a devastating stock market crash will happen. And he's been predicting this for more than 2 years. Now, the veteran investor told CNN that every great bubble in history has ended with an economic downturn. He described the prospect of bubbles bursting in both the stock market and in the real estate sector as fairly ominous. Now, most people have one or both. Most people have one or the other or both. You're investing in real estate, you own a single family property. Whether it's a house, a condo, a townhouse, most people own one of those. They're paying a mortgage payment, or they're investing in the stock market to some capacity, whether it's through your employer, through your 401k retirement program at work. Maybe it's a pension. Maybe it's your individual retirement account. Maybe it's a Roth IRA. Maybe it's a taxable brokerage account. But the simple fact of the matter is most people are doing one or the other or both. And if this transpires, we would all be feeling the pain on this one. The recessions are mild if everybody does everything right and there are no complications, he says. They are terrible if people get anything wrong. Now, we've already seen Jerome Powell miscalculate based on the predictions that he's made. We've already seen massive miscalculations from Janet Yellen. And I think it's very likely that they will not do everything right. It's just they don't have the track record of doing everything right. In fact, they have quite a track record of doing things wrong, in fact. Now, Grantham cautioned the sudden collapse of Silicon Valley Bank in March might be just one of several debacles this year. The disaster has sparked fears of further bank runs and stoked concerns that lenders may panic and pull back, causing a credit crunch that hits commercial real estate and other debt-reliant sectors. Now, obviously, with the shutdown, a lot of employers allowed people to work from home. There were thousands of layoffs. But during this time where employers allow people to work from home, many people purchased real estate. They purchased single family homes and bigger properties further out, further away from the city. They invested in real estate in the suburbs. They invested in real estate beyond the outskirts of the suburbs into the rural areas because they wanted more space. And because employees didn't necessarily have to report to the office, they leveraged this. They allowed them, they finally purchased the properties of their dreams, and their family finally had the space to enjoy it. And without having to worry about commuting into the office, there was a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer. We had low interest rates. The Fed actually had low interest rates. Mortgage rates were fairly available as long as you had decent credit, 700, 740 and up. You can get a mortgage interest rate, 30-year fixed rate mortgage rate for 3% or less all day long. We did it twice. And so this is literally fueled the housing market boom that we experienced over the last 2 years. And during this time, many people took the extra time to create online businesses. They created side hustles, Amazon FBA. They created businesses leveraging the ability to earn income through Stripe and PayPal and Venmo and, basically just any other online payment gateway that you can think of. They pushed products leveraging affiliate marketing strategies. I mean, this thing got really big. People built Shopify stores. Online businesses were booming, and more people became less and less reliant on their primary source of income, which was their traditional 9-to-5. Well, he goes on to say here, quote, "Other things will break, and who knows what they will be." He goes on to say, "We are by no means finished with the stress to the financial system." This guy's a billionaire. So, I think he knows what he's talking about when it comes to the money. He says that when the great bubbles break, they do impose a lot of stress on the system. So my question for you guys is, what are you doing to prepare yourself for a collapse? I'm talking about a collapse of the housing market, compressed real estate values, potentially, a collapsed stock market. And what about a potential for job loss? Do you have an emergency fund? Do you have any type of investments that you could potentially liquidate if you needed to kind of fill some gaps in the event of employment loss? Do you have a side hustle? These are the questions I would be asking myself. And you want to know the answer to these things before you actually find yourself in a crisis, because by then it could be too late. Now, I want to talk to you guys about why a housing market crash may be closer than you think. So the housing market is one of the key telling signs of the overall health of our economy. I've shared with you guys numerous reports from Zillow and Redfin, and housing values are perhaps the most visible sign of how well the housing market is doing. But there are a number of other variables that you can look at to assess the market's overall health. So, for example, the number of mortgage applications can indicate, how many buyers are looking to buy a property and how many sellers are on the market. We can just kind of jump on Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia, name your favorite website, and we can see how many houses on the market. And looking at how much is being spent on home appliances and home furnishings can be a good idea in terms of how much the consumer is willing and able to spend. We could look at, how well is Rooms to Go doing? How well is Haverty's doing at home? Ashley's Furniture, like how well are these different companies and businesses doing? This can help us get a fairly accurate barometer in terms of how strong the economy is. And heck, walk into the stores during the weekend. How busy is Rooms to Go on the weekend? Are they busy? Do you see lots of families walking in there looking at furniture and actually buying? So, these are questions, these are things I'd be wondering. And so basically, another go-to data point is lumber prices, and it is the cornerstone of many primary market risk signals, precisely because of what it tells us about the housing market, right? So the average home has about 16,000 board feet of lumber, and lumber prices are a direct tell on home construction, industry demand, and ultimately home prices. And so home prices, they're already on a decline. We're seeing this in multiple states and cities. Some of the cities being hit the hardest are many parts of Florida, Orlando. Actually, Orlando's still fairly strong, but I'm starting to see a lot of weakness on the Florida coast, Fort Myers, Panama City, Destin, and Miami is actually starting to see some pullbacks as well. Is it Sarasota, Jacksonville? But Las Vegas is seeing dramatic pullbacks in the real estate and housing market. Certainly San Francisco, California is seeing pullbacks, and a number of other cities inside of California. But there was a report I saw the other day, 25 to 30% price reductions in San Francisco, California. So that's pretty substantial. So we can look at these barometers and kind of get a feel for what is likely to come in our economy based on what's happening in the housing market. And so basically, we are realistically expecting the possible housing market pullback coming in sooner than expected. And recent reports have indicated that as mortgage rates remain above 5.5%, buyers are uninterested. They're really showing a disinterest in purchasing real estate with interest rates being above 5.5%. Now, if this persists and we start seeing more and more homeowners in need of selling their homes, they may have to drop prices. And this could be the first domino falling over before the cascade of thousands of future dominoes to fall. So I'm just saying, prepare yourself for survival, but also prepare yourself financially to take advantage of many different asset collapse opportunities that will show up in the future. So, and just to break this down for those who might not be following what I'm saying, when assets collapse, that doesn't mean that it's necessarily a bad thing. Think about it like this. If you go to a grocery store, Walmart, Costco, Target, you name it, right? And, things you normally buy, toilet paper, vegetables, I don't know, hamburger meat, chicken, eggs, milk, right? You know what those prices are normally like. Well, when you see that those items have gone on sale, you get excited, right? Because you realize it's a good deal on something you need, and it's a good deal on something that's of value to you. So I like to look at the stock market the same way. I like to look at the real estate and housing market the same way. When stock prices go down, I don't panic that they've gone down. When housing prices go down, I don't panic that they've gone down. I say to myself, hey, is there anything that I can grab right now that's on sale, that's at a discount? And so that's exactly how I like to look at the housing market and the stock market. And so when I'm talking about preparing for the future and preparing for a collapse, yes, prepare for survival, but at the same time, prepare for the come up, prepare for the discounts in these assets, because as these assets begin to contract, this is where the wealth is made. A wise real estate investor once told me, you make your money when you buy. And this is holding true. This holds true. You make your money when you buy. If you pay too much for an asset, it's very hard to profit from it. So when assets collapse and they become cheaper, you need to be in a financial position to be able to make that purchase. And so during this time, if I'm you, or I should say what I am doing is I'm stockpiling cash to make sure that I'm in a position to be able to take advantage of many of these opportunities that are going to be coming up in the future, especially as it's going to be harder and harder to obtain cash and capital loans from banks. Banks are starting to really get nervous right now. They're not offering credit as easily as they used to. Interest rates on the credit that they do offer is significantly higher. And so what this means is that cash is going to be king in the future, in the coming months. And so, yeah, I'm investing in gold and I'm investing in gold and silver. And of course, for the best way to invest in gold or silver, there's a link in the description down below. But at the same time, you want to have some dry powder ready to go. And when I say dry powder, I'm talking about cash. And I'm putting my money into the most stable banks that I can find, the most stable high yield interest banks that I can find, the highest yielding money market funds in the most stable banks that I can find. So, do your own homework, pick the banks that you decided that you want to do business with. But again, when I put money in the bank, there's a reason, and there's a certain amount that I'm looking to put in there. And, we've seen what happened with Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, Credit Suisse. You have to do your own homework and be confident about what you're choosing, right? FDIC swooped in and, saved a lot of the underinsured bank account holders, but I wouldn't depend on that going forward. So me personally, I don't have one bank account. I have many bank accounts, and I do this for diversification and to ensure that I remain within the confines of what FDIC insurable limits are. So, do your homework, whether it's, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citibank, credit unions. Now, credit unions are not FDIC insured. They're actually insured by an equivalent organization, which I believe is the NCUA, and I cannot remember exactly what that acronym means, but basically it's the equivalent of FDIC for credit unions. So let me know if you guys want me to provide a list of my top 10 credit unions that I like, or maybe my top 10 favorite banks. Hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you guys are thinking on that. If you want me to drop that list, or I'm more than willing to make a video for you guys on that. In terms of the top 10 best credit unions or the top 10 highest yielding banks that I'm aware of. I'd love to hear from you guys, but let me know if you guys got some value out of this video. Also, let me know what topic that I've covered during today's video that you found most interesting. I'd love to get that feedback from you guys. Also, if you made it this far in the video, do your boy a favor, drop a like for the video, consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.